welcome back to Story Stash. I'm your host Duncan, and these are some of my stories I've written. Today I'm reading from my book Ghost Whisperer, and this is Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Connor caught up with Sarah outside police headquarters the next day. Sarah, I found the threat in my area, so I got Ed to pass on the address to the CIA, he said. Good job. I found nothing in my area. I saw some criminal activity, but nothing like the level you were expecting. Sorry I couldn't find you last night, or I would have told you. Too bad we don't have phones as ghosts. No worries. I was thinking we can scan our respective areas regularly, perhaps once a week. I agree. As long as I pass the intel to Ed, it must be significant too. He's all yours. I find it annoying to ask him for help. That was exactly what Connor wanted. Sarah was working for him, and he controlled access to the asset. I'll be at police headquarters often if you need to contact me. If you find a worthy case, we can discuss how we can handle it, said Connor. Thank you. I visit police headquarters often. I look forward to working with you. The new Russian safe house was a farmhouse outside of town. Currently, 3 agents discussed their plans. We lost an entire team because of him. We should make him pay, said Agent 1. All in good time. We also lost a valuable asset in Langley. We lost the intel he provided, said their leader. With the frequency he visits their local office, he is an active agent. He might have some useful intel. That was Agent 2. That and his visit to the Yakuza means he's connected to the local underworld. His software job is just a cover. Agent 1. Perhaps we capture him and ship him back home to Moscow. They can torture him there without risk of his escape. Agent number 2. I was hoping to get some payback for the damage he did to us. Agent number 1. Whatever we do, we should move soon. His presence in Seattle is a threat to our operations here, said Agent number 2. I agree. Capture and send him to Moscow. We can extract him from his apartment, said their leader. The next day, Ed returned to work, arriving early. He checked in with his boss before diving into work on bug fixes. As he sat in his cubicle, a ghost appeared near him. He recognized this one. It was Connor Price, the former CIA agent. Ed smiled and stood and was about to walk to the janitor's closet. Ed, I can tell you here. I'm just giving you advance notice. I'll stop by your apartment this evening, said Connor. Ed nodded and sat down again. This was an improvement. Normally when Connor stopped by, it meant he had to leave work and visit the CIA office. Ed resumed his work on bug fixes. Later that evening, he closed up and drove home. No sooner than he arrived in his living room, Connor appeared with another ghost. Hello, said Ed. Good evening, Ed. May I introduce Ellen? I brought her to meet you, as you might find her case interesting. Ed looked at the other ghost. She was female, brunette, and looked about 30. He might resent the disturbance, but Connor was polite. He preferred Connor to Sarah. Hello, Ellen. What's your story? How did you die? Hello. I don't quite know my story. I don't know when or how I died. Do you have any unfinished business that keeps you here as a ghost? I don't think so. I really can't say why I'm here. Connor, is this why you brought her? She has no memory of her death. I don't know how I can help her. Yes, she is a puzzle. To me, something is different about her, said Connor. Ed considered her for a moment. Connor, it would help if we knew where her body is. We might discover a cause of death and other answers, said Ed. Didn't you work with Ian to find his body? Perhaps that would work for Ellen. Perhaps. If we assume she died in the Seattle area, Ian found when he approached his body he could feel a tingling sensation. Connor nodded. Why not leave her with me? We'll float around and see if she can sense anything, said Connor. That works for me. If you don't find a body, I can't really help her, said Ed. Connor turned to Ellen. Please come with me. We must go search for your body, he said. Connor and Ellen floated out through a wall and were gone. Ed fixed himself dinner. Later, he went to bed. After leaving Ed, Connor introduced Ellen to the ghostly art of flying. They floated above treetops and buildings. Ellen, tell me if you sense any tingling. We'll fly around and cover lots of area this way. She nodded, and they floated off. Several hours later, she called a halt. Connor, I feel something from over there, she said. Good. Now we must pinpoint where. They descended and circled the area to pinpoint the source of the tingling. In there, said Ellen. That's a private clinic, said Connor. He floated down and memorized the name and address. He'd need that later. I wonder why my body is there. Maybe they have a morgue. They entered the building and floated through rooms and corridors. It was clean and had a modest number of patients. Connor thought it was a good place to hide while healing after an attack. This way, said Ellen. Their search brought them to a private room on the second floor. Ellen floated through the door. Connor followed. They'd entered a dimly lit room. Hey, this is your body, said Connor. Her body was in a bed, surrounded by medical equipment, complete with beeping noises and displays showing various data. And I'm not dead. They have me on life support. Your body is in a coma. This is different. I didn't know you could be a ghost of someone in a coma. It appears so. What do we do now? Asked Ellen. We regroup. Our plans have changed. We don't need a cause of death, but we need to rescue you. Rescue me? Wake you up then. I want to understand why you're here in a coma. Why can't I wake up now? Asked Ellen. See that bag hanging there beside your bed? That's a saline drip. The label says it's got a drug in it. That's to sedate you. We must take you off that drug before you can wake up. A few minutes later, they left the clinic. Ellen returned to the clinic a few hours later. She found it surreal to watch her body in a hospital bed. It was a genuine out-of-body experience. She wondered how long she'd been in a coma. A nurse entered the room, disturbing Ellen's thoughts. The nurse checked the body and the machines before turning to leave. Ellen followed her out to the nurse's station. The nurse took a seat and picked up a coffee mug. Ellen read her ID badge. It said her name was Hope Dixon. All at once, Ellen had an idea. This nurse was the key to her escape. She reached out her hand to the nurse, who was unaware of her presence. She touched the nurse on her forehead. Still no reaction. Ellen tried to project a thought into this nurse. Hope, what you're doing to that lady is wrong. She's not sick. You're keeping her drugged. Nurse Hope looked down the corridor towards Ellen's room, frowned briefly, and then returned to her coffee. Something worked. She got a small result. She tried it again. Hope, if you don't help her, you're as bad as whoever put her here. Nurse Hope again looked down the corridor. This was going to take some effort. Ellen could influence the nurse, but was it enough? Once again, You should take her off that drug. Switch it for just saline. The nurse looked up but didn't leave her seat. Ellen put her best effort into this. You want to help that lady. Get up and do something now. Nurse Hope put down her coffee cup. She appeared about to stand, but decided not to. Ellen sighed. This would take some time. The next day Ed drove to work. He passed a cemetery on the left and noticed several translucent ghosts wandering about the graves. Ed quickly looked away and continued his journey, making a mental note not to drive that way again. He needed more ghosts in his life, like a hole in his head. Ed would have to avoid various places where ghosts were likely to be. If they didn't know he existed, they couldn't seek his help. Later at work, Connor arrived and startled Ed. He looked at Connor, who pointed towards the janitor's closet. Ed got up and followed him there. Hello again. Ed, we've found her body, said Connor. And the cause of death is? She's not dead. She's in a coma in a private clinic. That's good. I don't have a murder to solve. So what's your plan? We'll do the investigation and surveillance to figure out what's happening. I'll need your help with the extraction. I'm not sure I can steal a coma patient. Agreed. She won't be in a coma. I just need you to be ready. Can you buy medical scrubs for a disguise? You'll probably need a fake ID name tag. I can do that. I don't want to do anything that gets me arrested, though. You'll need more intel. One thing is certain. The longer she is in a drug-induced coma, the less likely she will ever awake. We have to act soon, Ed. You get the intel and I'll be ready, said Ed. I'll be back as soon as I can. Thank you for trusting me, said Connor. He then floated out through the wall. Ed returned to his cubicle. That evening on his way home, Ed stopped at a workwear store and got a set of scrubs. He'd work on an ID badge at home. Throughout the day, Ellen worked on convincing Nurse Hope. She was making progress, as the nurse was visiting Ellen's body more often than needed. Take her off that drug. Switch it for saline. She kept projecting her thoughts, hoping it would work. Later, Connor arrived in her private room. Nurse Hope was checking the machines. How's it going, Ellen? He asked. I suspect I'm making progress on the nurse. I'm projecting my thoughts to get her to take me off the sedative. Whoa! I didn't know you were capable of that. Are you getting anywhere? I didn't know either, but I had to convince someone to help me. Achieving that might bring about your awakening. I've got Ed preparing to come in and rescue you. Watch this. Ellen touched Nurse Hope on the forehead. You need to change her IV to saline. Take her off that drug now. Nurse Hope looked at the IV, which still had saline, sedative. She thought hard about it. You're getting close, said Connor. I hope so. Once she switches me over, how long before I awake? Connor floated over to examine the IV bag. I'm uncertain. This is a fairly high dose. We don't know how long you've been on this drug, said Connor. Ellen sighed. The next day, Ed drove to work. He had a set of scrubs and a fake ID badge in his car ready. About midday, Connor arrived. Ed stood and walked to the janitor's closet. Ed, our plans are moving ahead. Are you prepared? Asked Connor. I have the scrubs and the ID. I'm not comfortable breaking into a private clinic. This is a rescue mission. You're not there to steal anything. When you arrive, you must be confident. Believe that you belong there, and people will ignore you. How far away is this clinic? Asked Ed. About an hour drive from here. Well, let me know at least an hour before I'm needed. Will do. I'll go back and see how it's progressing. Connor vanished. Ellen worked relentlessly on Nurse Hope until she had a breakthrough. She'd built up feelings of guilt over keeping someone in a coma against their will. Finally, the nurse switched over the IV to plain saline. The question was, how soon would Ellen awake? Later, Connor arrived. "Hello, Ellen. How's it going?" "I got her to switch me to saline. Look!" Connor floated over and examined the IV bag. "Good job. Now we can monitor you on this screen. Your pulse should get faster, which is a sign. I have Ed on standby for evacuation. He needs about an hour's warning." "Understood. I must wake up before the doctor visits, or they'll spot the different IV bag." "I don't know when that'll happen." "So, how do I wake myself up?" "As I'm dead, I'm not qualified to tell you. You might feel a pulling sensation to return to your body, or you may need to return before you can wake up." Ellen hovered over her body. "I'm curious how long they kept me here." Connor looked at the clipboard on her bed. It had several sheets. "Several weeks." A while later, the device showed her pulse had increased. "It's time, Ellen. Float into your body and will yourself to wake up," said Connor. Ellen floated back into her body. She willed herself to reintegrate with her body and to wake. Her eyes started flickering. Connor watched until he saw progress. Then he floated out of the wall in search of Ed. Connor floated above the skyline of Seattle. He traveled to the offices of Disneytech and descended through the roof, arriving at Ed's cubicle. Ed looked up when the translucent ghost arrived. "Ed, it's time. Grab your gear and let's go," said Connor. It wasn't too far from his usual leaving time, so he shut down his computer and left for his car. Ed appeared in the front seat. "You need to get into those scrubs. I reconnoitered the clinic, and you can enter through a back entrance." "Right, where's the clinic?" Ed followed Connor's directions. An hour later, he parked at the back entrance to the clinic. He quickly changed into his disguise. The key is to act with confidence. Act like you work here. Ed did just that. Connor guided him in and upstairs to the level where Ellen's room was. Ed walked past the nurse's station and followed Connor to Ellen's room. As he did so, Nurse Hope got up and followed him. "Excuse me, can I help you?" she asked. "Patient transfer," said Ed. The nurse moved closer to Ed. "Are you taking her out of here?" "Yes." "Good. I didn't feel right keeping her here. Let me help you get her ready." They entered Ellen's room. Ellen lay on her bed, but her eyes were open. She was still groggy. Nurse Hope went to a closet and fetched Ellen's clothes. "The doctor's not due until tomorrow," she said. "Ed?" said Ellen. "I'm here to get you out." The nurse closed the screens and helped Ellen dress. Ed fetched a wheelchair. He hadn't noticed, but Connor had left. Soon he wheeled Ellen out of the room. "Let me escort you. It'll look more genuine." "Fetch your purse then. We can't leave you here after this," said Ellen. Ed followed Nurse Hope to an elevator and then out the rear exit. He wheeled Ellen to his car and helped her in. The nurse got in the back seat. Ed saw Connor. Connor was sitting beside her. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I can take you to my apartment for now." Nurse Hope reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her keys. "No, I'll direct you to my place. I can help you recover, and no one will know where you are," said Nurse Hope. Ed pulled out from the clinic and with Hope's directions drove to a townhome complex. Ed and Nurse Hope helped Ellen inside her unit. Connor floated in behind them. "Ed, can you thank our mutual friend Connor? I think I understand why they did this to me." Ed looked briefly at Connor. He noticed Ellen saw Connor, but didn't let on in front of Hope. Sure. Do you need more help from me? He asked. No, I should recover soon. Then I have some business to sort out. Okay. Ed was glad this turned out simple and not dangerous. Ed left the townhome with Connor and drove back to his own apartment. Well, we saved her, said Ed. We did indeed. You weren't in danger either. I wonder what she meant when she said she understood why they did this. You'll have to ask her later. At his apartment complex, he parked in the garage and walked towards the elevator. He was glad to be home again. A moment later, 2 burly men appeared. They grabbed him and put a bag on his head. Not again, he said. Then everything went black. Connor floated around beside Ed as they put him inside a van. He joined them inside the van and they drove off. Well, that's the end of chapter 9. In the next episode, the CIA rescues Ed from the Russian agents. Hope to see you next episode.